Swayam Prabha. Digital India. Educated India.
Hi, welcome to yet another module on the Cybersecurity Foundation. This is related to the IOT. We had done the introduction of IOT and the security aspects of IOT in the earlier session. Today we are going to be seeing more the IOT architecture and the security concerns, which is very important for us to understand. Only when you understand the security concerns, you will be able to design the security solutions for IoT. Okay, that's the reason why we are talking about IoT architecture and the security concerns what we have. So, the IoT application infrastructure is normally divided into 3 layers. We can call it as 4 layers also. Generally, perception layer, network layer and application layer are the 3 major layers, and of course the data processing and the control which is a mobile application or a handheld device is also part of the things. So, devices are built with sensors inside them and are connected to an IoT platform. The platform integrates the sensory data from various devices and uses to provide valuable information with the help of analytical algorithms, and the uses are tailored to the device and its needs. So, we have generally a perception layer, which is generally a set of sensors, or it could be even a laptop gathering some information with RFID and other things which is there. And then there is a network layer, which can be a Wi-Fi or it can be a router, access point or a Bluetooth or a connected device through the network, and everything goes through the internet to provide various applications like smart home or the smart city or a smart government, smart vehicles, and a whole lot of things are being considered as part of the innovative IoT applications. So, these are the 3 layer model which we have. So, the perception layer is also known as sensor layer. The main agenda is of this layer is to collect the data from the IoT environment using the sensors and actuators. Like for example, sensor can be linked to an actuator. So, a sensor is a camera, it recognizes my face and it can open a door automatically. So, that is done through actuators. So, this layer is responsible for detecting, collecting, processing and transmitting to the data to the network layer. So, normally these sensors are connected to a gateway, and the gateway has got an internet or a connectivity to go to the cloud and other things. So, the perception layer is the physical layer, and sensing the information for gathering about an environment, and it could be some physical parameters or identifies some smart objects in the environment, like intrusion detection or a door opening or a windows being smashed, sound, light, all these things are into the perception layer. The network layer is responsible for routing the collected data to different IoT devices over the internet. So, this involves cloud platforms, switching, gateways, and there are several technologies to create mesh architecture to create redundancies and reliabilities and all. We are not going to go in depth of the network layer, but this is commonly used gateway and an internet connectivity. It can be a 5G or a 4G or a low powered WAN type of any of these connections. But they are the mediator between the sensors and the IoT hub for the IoT platform. The network layer is responsible for connecting to other smart things and the network devices, for like for example, as I said, you are into opening a door automatically using the face recognition. It can do it with connecting to other smart things. So, it also has the features are used for transmitting and processing the sensor data. Suppose the temperature sensor is there, if it is way beyond the normally allowed sensor data, the temperature, it can automatically send a command to reduce the air conditioner temperature to make the room more cooler and other things. So, it can be integrated to process data, can be sent for a command and action as well. So, application layer, this is responsible for integrity, authentication and security of the data, Application is also responsible for delivering the application specific services to the user or the company. It defines various applications that Internet of Things can be deployed. For example, smart homes, smart cities, like in the smart homes opening a lock, or switching on the lights when you are not there and other things. Smart health, smart car, smart, so many things are becoming smart nowadays. So it is all the applications are controlled in the application layer. So broadly the three layers: perception layer, network layer and application layer is what you need to remember. So earlier, in the recent times, the three-layer architecture has turned into 5 layers because of the finer aspects of Internet of Things and bringing in the security, because IoT was developed without considering the security aspects of it. More to do a novel thing of making it work like a smart parking or a smart door opening, smart health care, smart alerts, and a whole lot of things was the primary concerns, but never a security aspect of it. So in the recent times, the three-layer architecture, which is perception layer, network layer, application layer, has changed into 5 layers. So here there is the perception layer remains the same because it's the physical sensors and devices, but the network layer is divided into transport layer and processing layer, and then the application layer is divided into application layer and the business layer. The type of applications what you do to apply the business logic is what is called the business layer. So in the recent times, the three-layer architecture has turned into the 5-layer architecture. This is what we have seen happening. So what are the changes? The transport layers transfers the sensor data from the perception layer to the processing layer and vice versa. So you can have a two-way communication using the transportation layer. That's the 5th out of the 5 layers, the new layer which has been added. The processing layer is also known as the middleware layer. It stores, analyzes and processes huge amount of data that comes from the transport layer, and it can manage and provide diverse set of services to the lower layers, and employs many technologies such as databases, cloud computing, big data processing, analytics, and whole lot of things can be processed within the processing layer. So within the application, smart homes, smart cities or smart cars are all broadly thing, but the business layer manages the whole application, then the business and the profit models as well as the user's privacy brings into there. So the business layer is out of scope of this topic, but no, it is a very important decision making process which has been added into the 5-layer architecture, which is a new current IoT security architecture is all about. So let us understand, in order to understand the IoT security, we should also understand the IoT communications and its protocols. So all the IoT devices and application communicate through the network. We have seen this earlier in the first class itself. So some networks are hardwired, some are wireless. The wireless communication is the most used type of communication in IoT applications. There are also various protocols used by IoT devices in the wireless communications. Essentially, we have things, which is Internet of Things, which is sensors, actuators, and then it does a processing and then puts it for communication to the network. Networks have wired, wireless, power line, personal area network and local area networks and a whole lot of things, and connected through the internet to the backend services, which has got a remote server, uses user access and control and big data analysis. So this is what is a broad communication architecture. So all the actuators and sensors do some processing of gathering of information and put it to the gateway through the communication, and the gateways are connected to the internet, which sends it to the remote server for processing, and the user can access and control as well as the business data analysis. So IoT categories are broadly into industrial IoT and commercial IoT, and we are going to be seeing about industrial IoT as part of operational technologies in the next module. So we are not going to go, today we are talking about commercial IoT, the local communication typically either through Bluetooth or Ethernet, and communicate with the local devices. So protecting the devices is very important and its infrastructure. Generally, sandbox as a containment jail for every program or processes is recommended. Because the first module we saw that IOT, the devices do not have its own processing or intelligence built into it. It is just doing one act of collecting a data or sensing something and putting it to the gateway for further processing. It does not have any great intelligence. So, anybody can hack it, anybody can do anything, and anybody can boss over it. For example, I can be I would have set up a IoT sensor for a garage for sensing the light and connected to the gateway. The neighbor can also claim that through we are going to see in the security aspects in the next module how the fake nodes and man in the middle type of attacks can happen. So, when it says I am your boss, the node will believe that yes, and start communicating with that gateway also. So, this is the problem. So, in order to bring in some sort of protecting the devices, sandbox is a containment jail for every program and process can be developed. It's a new sandboxing is a new technology where you can define the boundaries and processes within a sort of capsule, and like this typically least control or acceptable resource access behaviors can be defined, and restrict the applications only to the required resources that are necessary to perform the defined use cases. So, this is how the sandboxing is done. In the sandboxing, we can develop several constraints. The sandbox are nothing but constraints. You can put network constraints, you can put file constraints, you can put device constraints, you can put process access constraints, memory constraints, and registry constraints. So, all these things part of the application or core services can be defined, and each one of them have some parameters to be programmed, and that is how the sandboxing is created. Let us see an example of how this is done in a malware scenario. For example, a sophisticated ATM attack, a malware attack onto the ATM. So, attacker breaks into the bank or ATM network via remote desktop connections or spear phishing or some ports which has been left out opened or unprotected USBs. They can do an infiltration into a network. Okay. So, once they gain infiltration, they will do propagation. Attackers search for entry point into the ATM's endpoints and install malwares such as Green Dispenser or Configure or Zeus or Citadel or on the targeted system. Now, once infiltrated and propagated into the proper installation of a malware, aggregation, the malware steals the critical information from the vulnerable devices and or dispenses all the cache from the ATM, for example, and stolen data is either sent over to the hacker in a real time or a hidden location locally. Okay. It can store into a memory card, small hidden memory card, which he can come as an electrician and pick it up and aggregate all the information, or it can do an online. When you are using the Facebook, it can also tag along with the Facebook as a Facebook packet and it will reach the hacker. So, exfiltration is if the stolen data is stored locally, all the stolen data is aggregated in the hidden location and collected. Normally, it is also done through the net. Okay, that's what the more sophisticated attacks like Configure or keylogger type of attacks does it online. Okay, so when you are putting the sandboxing, the constraints. So, you put network constraints and device constraints, okay, infiltration can be prevented. So, when you have network constraints, file constraints and process access constraints, the propagation can be prevented. Now, the same three, the network and the file constraints as well as the process access constraint can also prevent the aggregation, and exfiltration is prevented with the network constraints in case of the data automatically going out. So, this is how the sophisticated sandboxing technology for prevention of malware attack can be used in the IoT context. So, for all we have seen in the earlier thing, ATM was the oldest known IoT. It was not branded as Internet of Things, but IoT came into existence in the early 60s, and the first automated teller machine was put into use. Without a human intervention, through a network connectivity, the money can be dispensed was a proof of concept, and that time onwards Internet of Things have existed, but of late with light sensors, door opening sensors, smart cars, smart homes, door opening locks and other things, things have become more prevalent and more and more billions of devices have come into existence. So IoT has become very popular, the commercial IoT part of it. So what you need is also the strong authentication, authorization and accountability, AAA, we have seen it in the access control modules. So same thing for accessing the device or the user authentication is very, very important in the IoT. Allows IoT devices to know whether they are not, whether or not they can trust a remote system or a user is done with a strong authentication. A device certificate, never trust authenticated peripherals. A user device certificate is a device authentication. User authentication is to validate the user to access the IoT device and data. Whether they are authorized to users to access the data is what we need to have strong authentication for. So in the case of like for example, additional factors are very much needed. Like you would have seen when you put a user ID and password for your e-commerce transaction, you get an OTP from on your out of band into a telecom to get your OTP. You enter the OTP to authenticate the thing. So similarly, can we use something for the ATM card and the PIN which is being used? Yeah, we can check if the cardholder's mobile is near the ATM. So that's something which is evolving as a technology. You put a mobile sensors which can read the IMEI numbers on the mobile and say, okay, this is the user has come to the ATM and this is a valid guy. If suspicious the cardholder's mobile devices, do you want to authorize this can be asked. For highest risk transaction, biometrics can be put into the device and like fingerprint or both facial and iris or the liveness detection can come in. So IoT needs additional authentication, additional devices, additional sensors to get protected. That's a bottom line you need to understand. So countering the threats, first we have to understand the threat itself. Threats to IoT systems including financial services are real and happening today. So you need to recognize the threat and create defense in depth. Like we saw the defense in depth where the fort was an example, layered defense or there. Security is a necessity and an enabler, not a burden or a tax. People need to understand that. So as we had seen in the introduction to security, security and safety are the least of the priority of the users. They think, I am made of steel, so I don't need health insurance. Or people think, no, others can be attacked, I will not be attacked. They sit in a fool's paradigm. So do not think like that. Security is a necessity and an enabler, not a burden. Okay, that is something. And we have to understand the security and do a design. Consider a security by design approach, not just security as an add-on. So invariably in the context, as I said, IoT, people got carried away with the things it can do. Like it can sense the light and switch on, switch off. That sort of control is what they were excited about. Never considered security as part of the IoT. That's the reason why we are into this state of only developing sandboxing or other outer mechanisms to protect the network, to protect the application, and nothing big can be done with the sensors. That's where we are standing on today. So we are also going to watch a video which it's talk about the IoT devices, types of IoT devices and the vulnerabilities what are there. Watch this short video which will give you an idea on the types of applications of IoT and what types of vulnerabilities are there and what types of usages can lead to what type of vulnerability. Watch this video, then we'll get back.
So, the Internet of Things. Who loves the Internet? If you didn't put your hand up, get out. If you haven't used Google at work to do your job better, then you're wrong. And who loves things? The chairs you're sitting in, the glasses you're wearing, the phones you hold. Pretty much everyone, some weird people down here. Well, the Internet of Things, there's a lot to it, and I'm going to try and breeze through this in 7 minutes. But let's jump into it. Let's jump into what the Internet of Things, IoT, really is. Now, in a digital world, we can make everything talk to each other, right? We can make our phones talk to each other, we can make Facebook talk to each other, and in a physical world, not so much. This is where our lives and technological development has kind of stopped. But now we are able to build a network, so multiple, of physical objects, your chair, your table, your lounge, those Tim Tams in the fridge, that are connected to the internet. If you don't know what the internet is, and you're same weird people that said no, get out. It allows you to send, so you can create and transmit, receive, so that you can receive and interpret, and exchange data. Exchange data. You can have conversations with things around you. So IoT will allow multiple physical objects, like your Tim Tams, to be connected to the internet. They can send just how good Tim Tams are to other Tim Tams and to you. And they can receive just how many people want those damn Tim Tams. And they can have a conversation with the other items in your fridge. So we're entering a very exciting time where we will have chairs, couches, pretty much everything that's in your home connected to the internet, or at least to have conversations with things around you. Now, it's still very ominous, right? Even though we have a definition that I may or may not have gotten off Urban Dictionary. But let's break it into 4 sections. Hardware. Little bits and pieces like this. The hardware is what actually allows us to connect digital items to physical objects. So I can put this on a door and it will tell me when that door opens. This is $1, by the way, $1. So we have hardware that senses things. We have data. Data actually starts to make sense of what all of this is, and it's the thing that we push around all the time, every day, that we don't really think about. But for example, this piece of hardware here creates ECG data. It tells me how fast my heart is beating. Let's actually check that out right now. Yeah, okay, 110, great. And essentially, this has also changed over the last 10 years. We used to push data around in heavy, kind of standardized formats. We're seeing a lot of different ways of doing this now. We see JSON strings. Let's see you interpret that, Mikey. JSON, yeah. And now data is getting leaner. We can say more with less, okay? And data is becoming the universal language. Not English, not Chinese, not Auslan, but the universal language of things. And software. What do we do once we have that communication, once we have that piece of information? The software is what interprets it. It's what controls it. It's what analyzes it and allows it to do stuff. It's Facebook. It's your Instagram. It's the things that actually take pieces of data from these pieces of hardware and makes it do stuff that is valuable to you. And the last step, without all of this, stuff, is if it wasn't connected, it wouldn't mean anything. And connectivity over the last 10 years, we've seen go from cellular phones that were the size of bricks through to Wi-Fi, to Ethernet, to 2G, GSM, 4G, all these different acronyms that are awesome. But essentially, it's gotten cheaper and it's gotten faster. This is an RF transmitter. This is $1.50. I can attach this to one of these sensors with this little bit in the middle, and I can start beaming information to other things around me with no ongoing cost, with electricity cost as much as 1 cent a month for one of these. And I can start to have a conversation in a language that is not English or Auslan, but in data. And once we have all of these things connected and get it up to the cloud, like these things here, we can actually start to use them. The thing on the top left, I call them things because they're on the internet. The thing on the top left is a Bluetooth beacon. It's used for marking things. These are $4. I can place this on any object and use this as a proximity marker as well as an identifier. I can put this in my fridge so that I know when Mum went inside and ate 16 of those Tim Tams. And for $4, I can also put it outside and know when my girlfriend gets home that she got safely through the valley and into my apartment. On the bottom left is an air quality sensor. This is on the top end of the costly electronics, but that's a $6 sensor that allows me to tell, is there ammonia? Is there carbon dioxide or harmful gases in the environment around me? And in the middle, a galvanic skin response system. This allows me to measure the conductivity in my skin, down to the micro level, where I can know before my brain does that I'm stressed, that I've got adrenaline pumping, or that I'm on stage. And on the right, we have consumerized versions of these up to the $10 mark that allow anyone in their home to start building the systems I'm talking about out of the box using software that's readily available. And it's all in the wonderful cloud. We can do it anywhere. We can do it for ultra low cost. We don't have to worry about maintaining it, and you don't have to be an expert to use it. Now, you may or may not know that this already exists in your home, and if it doesn't, you should already have it. There's systems that allow us to walk up to our front door and not use a key, but purely to actually measure, is Jordan there? Has he walked up in a particular way? Is it him? And unlock the door for me. I can turn my TV on to Channel 7 and The Simpsons, just as I get home and I like to in the afternoon. I can actually measure how many people are in my room, what's the humidity, what's the temperature outside, and automatically set my air conditioning. I can talk to a unit and turn my Philips Hue lights on at the right time, to the right colour for my mood. And if I leave them on when I leave, it'll take care of it for me. So what does this all mean? Why is this a big problem, right? Why does it present so many different opportunities? The thing is that now we have gotten to a point where this is such an available and realistic opportunity that it's going to explode. And it's only going to happen in 10 years. Who loves their job at the moment? Half of you are like, no. Who thinks that they'll be in the same job for the next 5 years? Oh, you are all wrong. Who thinks they'll be in the same job for 10 years? Even worse. We're entering a stage where everything will be connected, and the impact of IoT will be $11 trillion a year by 2025 across factories, cities, human identification and interaction, healthcare, work sites and general safety, offices and vehicles. And why now? Because of the ultra-low cost of this hardware, the high availability of resources, the low level of difficulty to compile them and put them together, and a highly digital and connected universe that is driving us towards not just connecting our digital space and our digital lives, but our physical space and the things we actually deal with every day. This is a vertical farm. The only human interaction needed is placing the seeds into the soil. Watering, trimming, harvesting is all taken care of by IoT systems. And Barcelona Smart City, over the last 10 years, has made one of the most IoT-integrated smart cities in the world. By placing sensors that tell people where parking spots are, they have increased revenue for parking to over $50 million per year. They've decreased their energy costs by $37 million a year purely by having IoT and lights to tell them when they actually need to turn on and when people are there to use them. Their smart gardens save them $58 million a year in water usage just by watering in the right places at the right time. And now think about your home. All of those things I mentioned in your house, I already do in mine. It's here. It's not a futuristic object or an idea, it's a reality. So as we welcome the whole universe to the next era of connectivity, I ask, once all of our tasks are automated, when the things that we currently do every day and the jobs that half of you love and half of you hate are actually replaced by IoT devices, artificial intelligence and interconnected systems, what do we do? We come back to creativity, innovation, and humanity. We cannot replace our need to create new things, to improve them, and to build interpersonal relationships. We invent, we build, we optimize, we operate, we innovate, and we remember to enjoy sometimes before we invent again. IoT is the beginning of a new era. Thank you.
Okay, so having seen the types of IoT deployments across multiple sectors and multiple things, now let's talk about IoT growth stories. Okay, so the Gartner expects the IoT market to have 26 billion devices installed in 2022. Due to COVID, I think these numbers must not have been happened. So it must be delayed by the 3 years time of COVID, where people were locked at home, and creating huge opportunities for all parties, from data centers or the hardware makers to developers and designers. ITC, which is another big organization, is also expecting IoT industry to end up with billions of devices and trillions of dollars by the end of this decade. What is there? So it's all a big opportunity. So when we are talking about security challenges, whenever there is a challenge, there is an opportunity. So those of you who have got a brilliant idea to overcome or secure an IoT platform or an IoT device or an IoT application, please put in an effort. You can become a billionaire in no time. So that's a sort of growth expected on IoT. So the challenges, when as I said, security, increased automation and digitization creates new security concerns. Enterprises security issues could pose safety risks, and a lot of governments have come in with now privacy for IoT devices. So consumer privacy is a potential privacy breaches. Data, lots of data will be generated, both big data and personal data will all be used. Storage management, it becomes very, very big issues, because 26 billion devices, even if it gives 1 KB of data every minute, imagine in the amount of data which needs to be stored and managed. So storage management, to do with cost effective way of storage management, is another opportunity. Server technologies, more investment on the servers will be needed, because the sensors give only the data, it does not do any processing of any data to a meaningful application or a meaningful action. So servers will need a lot of data processing, and more servers will be required. And now the data center network need to be there. WAN links are optimized for human interface application. IoT is expected to dramatically change the patterns of transmitting data automatically. So these are all the IoT challenges. Each one of the challenge, as I said, is an opportunity. Some of you want to make some solutions and build solutions with respect to security of IoT devices, can become actually a billionaire in no time. So the IoT challenge continued. This is a lot of silicon in servers and CPUs, expensive RAM and even bigger SSD, all host in expensive servers and even the big data centers. So this is just the tip of the iceberg. IoT industry must tackle the bandwidth concerns. We are talking about 4G moving into 5G, moving into 6G, but all these Gs, after 4G is all the security is managed at the endpoint. So we have to have a very cyber aware workforce or cyber aware users who doesn't fall as a victim to the crime. So it becomes a major issues when you are talking about bandwidth and the network management and the connectivity. Data management with privacy policies, as I said, some of the governments like California government or a UK government has come out with IoT specific security policies and privacy policies. So you must be very aware of it. And security, this is what we are going to see in the next model, the various types of attacks, the spoofing attacks, and various kinds of vulnerabilities are there in the IoT devices. So adding millions of new devices, hardware endpoints, billions of lines of code, along with more and more infrastructure to cope with the load, creates a vast set of challenges unmatched by anything that we have experienced in the past 2 decades. That's a challenge. Next 2 decades are going to be almost 5 times the problem we have faced in the last 2 decades, because of the number of devices, number of billions lines of code, and more infrastructure with to cope up the load and the challenges is going to be a major challenge as well as an opportunity, as I said. So Internet of Security challenges are real and they need to be addressed. Kaspersky, which is one of the very big software vendor for security, endpoint security, has said Internet of crappy things, because openly criticizing to move everything possible into Internet. See, for example, people are meaningless automation is happening. Talking washing machine, connected refrigerator, connected various types of dumb devices, including a water kettle, for example. What is the purpose of doing all these things into bringing on to IoT? We don't understand. That's what is the reason Kaspersky is saying, openly criticizing, to connect everything possible to the internet. There is no need. So you have to do a meaningful automation. That is what we are talking about. And IoT security issues are definitely a reality, and it should not discourage you from developing your IoT applications. Most of them are common to other IT infra threats. Okay, here is a TED talk which is talking about the opportunities, the sensors, what is available, the low cost options are available, where you can build an IoT solutions very easily and market it to become millionaires and billionaires. Let's watch this video and come back and continue the session. Watch it, please.
אנו מכריזים בזאת
על TEDx BGU.
This morning, I woke up and went to my morning run using my smartwatch. This smartwatch is really amazing. It collects a lot of information about me, about my speed of running, about the distance, even my heart rate. And immediately when I arrive home, I can see that all the information is already stored in the cloud. And even it can measure my stress level. Let's see. Now it's 90, I have another 10 to go, at least while standing. Next, when I finish to make a bathroom, I go to my work using my connected car. How come my car is already connected? I'm using Waze in my car. And this Waze is connected to the internet. In the future, every car is going to be connected to the internet and is going to be part of the IoT revolution. Today, the cars are connected because of the application that we are having inside our car. But in the future, cars are going to be fully connected and are going to be even autonomous. Then, when I reach to my office, usually I like to play with the latest gadget. You know, when you are doing a lot of research in the domain of IoT, you can play a lot with these IoT devices, and you are buying many IoT devices. One of them is the Google Glass. You see, even a glass started to become smart. And this smart Google Glass, what we can do with them, we can actually navigate the internet and see many things via a small display and a camera. And in the future, such glasses will even be able to tell us if somebody in front of us is lying or not. And then, when I'm coming home, I go immediately to my smart fridge to grab something from the fridge. This fridge is smarter. Why it's smarter? It includes a very, very nice display. Via this display, I can order groceries, and in addition, it has a very nice dashboard where my wife can put me all the tasks that I have to do during this day. Then, I have to play with my latest drone at home in the evening. This drone is really amazing. You can take a lot of photos with it. It's also connected to the internet via the mobile phone. In the future, drones are going to be completely autonomous and are going to bring us groceries to our house. In the late evening, I like to go to watch movies in my smart TV. This smart TV is also connected to the internet and allows me to access to many, many content providers and get a lot of interesting videos and content. In the future, these smart TVs will know automatically what we're supposed to watch, what really interests us. All these things that I described to you are actually part of the Internet of Things revolution. These are IoT that are interacting today with them. And in the future, we are going to do even more. So as you saw, many devices that we are using today are going to become connected to the internet and are going to provide us much better services. Why IoT is so important? Mainly because in the past, for example, we had a heart rate monitor. The heart rate monitor could collect information about our heart status and then to provide us a prognosis about what is the status of our heart. In the future, there's going to be an IoT heart rate monitor that is going to collect a lot of information about our heart, is going to send it to the cloud, and in the cloud, very strong servers are going to make the diagnosis and send it to us back. So the revolution is really, really profound. But let's talk about the privacy risks. You know, IoTs collect a huge amount of information about us, which is stored in the cloud. This information is going to be analyzed in order to provide us better services. But on the other hand, if somebody will manage to get this data, he will manage to violate our privacy. Let's go to one very, very sexy example. This is a smart vibrator that a company actually developed. And this smart vibrator is actually activated via the mobile phone. What actually happened is that this company collected a lot of information about the patterns of usage of their customers, and eventually their customers went to court and they had to pay $10,000 for every user because they potentially violated the privacy of their customers. But to understand really the problem, let's go back to my day of interacting with many, many types of IoTs. Let's see what may happen if somebody is going to get the data or somebody will manage to compromise my specific IoTs, what will happen to my particular privacy. First of all, let's start with this very interesting smartwatch. Try to imagine that I'm sitting in my living room in front of my smart TV, and suddenly the police knocks on my door. And they enter into my living room, and they tell me that they have a fine for me because I drove while I was intoxicated. So I have alcohol in my blood. How come the police knows that I have alcohol in my blood? Well, we did a research in Ben-Gurion University where we managed to collect information from the smartwatch and connect it to the level of alcohol in our blood. In other words, the information that this smartwatch collects can be translated into the amount of alcohol in our blood. But how come the police knows that I was driving when I was intoxicated? Please recall the connected car. My car is connected. So actually in the cloud provider of these connected cars, there is knowledge when I drove. So if you correlate the data from the smartwatch together with the data from the connected car platform, you know that I drove actually when I was intoxicated. This is just one example. Another example, if somebody will manage to compromise my smartwatch. I told you before, this smartwatch knows what is my level of stress at every point in time. Imagine yourself that I'm in the middle of a poker game. Somebody can derive immediately a conclusion whether I am bluffing or not. And these are just examples of what may happen if somebody will manage to compromise either my IoT device or the content of information that was delivered from my IoTs to the cloud. Next, let's go to my connected car. Every connected car is reporting its location to its cloud service provider. So if somebody will manage to hack into the cloud service provider, they will know the location of many, many cars in a specific country. Now, what is the value of this information? First of all, you can analyze this data and derive conclusion about where the person is living, where he is working, and if you are really a very sophisticated thief, you can even know to pinpoint every BMW exactly where he's standing at night in order to do a targeted theft. Not targeted attack, targeted theft against the particular owner of the car. Now let's go to these smart glasses. Smart glasses are connected to the internet. So literally an attacker can compromise a specific piece of Google Glass using a malware. In addition, there are many ways to compromise a personal computer inside a company. We managed to develop a very intelligent malware that literally managed to create a very smart blinking on the screen of a PC, and by that, modulating and sending the data to the smart glasses, and from the smart glasses to the internet. So actually, it is justifiable that many companies do not allow to bring smart glasses into the premises, because if the smart glasses is compromised, it can be used to leak a lot of information from the organization to the attacker. Next, let's look at this interesting smart fridge. Imagine yourself that you are sitting at your home, navigating your notebook, and suddenly you get an amazing advertisement for a diet program. If it will happen for me, probably it's a false positive. But think about a general person that receives such an advertisement. Why it may happen in the future? Our student discovered that a smart fridge is actually sending information to the cloud each time that we are opening the fridge. In other words, when you analyze the data in the cloud, you can use analytics to derive a conclusion that somebody is actually fat. Now, based on that, somebody will send me an advertisement. But what could be even worse, that somebody will not give me an insurance because they know my eating habits. just because I'm using this smart fridge. Let's go to a drone. I described to you me playing with the drone. But me playing with the drone, maybe it's not my problem. My problem is my neighbor that is playing with the drone. My neighbor can use a drone above his premises, and he may use it to invade my privacy. And I will not know that it's actually happening. We developed in Ben-Gurion University a very disruptive research in which what we did, and here you can see even my house, we use a stimuli on the window such that if somebody is photographing with a drone our window, we can intercept on the air the encrypted traffic from the drone to the operator of the drone. And since we see that there is a correlation between the physical stimulus on the window that we are creating and the amount of traffic, encrypted traffic, that we receive, we know for sure that actually somebody is photographing us and streaming this data encrypted to his own PC, which tell us that actually somebody is invading our privacy. What to do with it? It's another big story, how to stop the drone from flying. Let's look at our smart TV. You know, a smart TV is connected to the internet. It's a part of the Internet of Things revolution. If somebody will be able to compromise my smart TV, he will able, first of all, to know what I'm watching currently in my TV. But many, many smart TVs also possess a microphone and a camera. And using that, an adversary will be able to compromise our bedroom. That's very, very risky as well. To conclude, in the future, we are going to interact with many, many IoT devices. These IoT devices are going to collect a lot of information about us. This information can be used to provide us better services. But on the other hand, if this information is going to be leaked to an adversary, he will be able to use it to learn many, many things about us and to compromise our privacy. And it's mandatory that whoever is managing these services will make sure that he is using the best security technologies to protect our privacy from any potential violation. Thank you.
So now we saw the opportunities. The devices are a few cents and few dollars, and $1 to $4 you can build actually taking these sensors, putting it into a Arduino or some of the type of fabricated boards. You can create a lot of innovative application on top of the sensors and build. So now some of the security challenges will be devices are not reachable. Most often the device is not connected. You don't know whether somebody picked it up physically and or some car ran over it or destroyed it in an accident or whatever it is. We don't know if the sensor is or the device is not working for what reason. It is not reachable because the device is not connected or somebody has device is stolen or lost, and it is very difficult to make it. So devices are not crypto engines, so you cannot put any security, strong security. And devices have finite life. Okay, credentials need to be tied to the lifetime of the device, and devices are transportable. It can cross borders, and you don't know that it has crossed the borders because it is sending some information which somebody can spoof and mimic and send wrong information to confuse you. So devices are transportable because it's normally very, very small, like you saw in the video. Small sensors are very, very easy to carry in a pocket or a small bag and cross over the things. Device need to be recognized by many readers. What data to be released to what reader, it doesn't have any intelligence, so it need to be programmed. These are all the security challenges what is there with respect to IoT devices. So security, work on the security by the various people. It is still work in progress. Assurance, the risk analysis, the device analysis, crypto capability and export analysis. Sensors and RFID will not do crypto for some years because it's very small. It is programmed to work for 7 to 8 years. Like for example, you have put a parking sensor below the ground. You have dug it deep. You have put a box. You have put a damage-proof cover, and still it will work with detecting the sensors, UV sensors or infrared sensors to make sure if some car is parked, that parking is not available. If car is not parked or a vehicle is not parked, it shows it is available. But when you have to put it below the ground, you cannot be taking it every month and doing a charge or putting a battery. So the battery lives are normally 6 years, 7 years, 8 years. It is programmed because it is going to last for long. So adding a processor means you have to add a fan, you have to add various kinds of other associated, it consumes and sucks the power. So it is not going to have RFID, and sensors are not going to have any processing engine or processors for a time to come. So crypto capability is not going to be there, encryption and various other things. So security objective will be privacy protection, identity protection and traffic analysis protection. We are going to see what is the traffic analysis threat and all in the next section. So identity and identifier management, separation of identity and identifier are two different things which is to be managed as well. So security issues, IoT security, data encryption, Internet of Things applications collect tons of data, retrieval and processing are integral part of whole IoT environment, but most of this data is personal and needs to be protected through encryption, and sensitive data like locations need to be available and concerned to the user. But the device itself cannot do any encryption. Once the raw data is collected, you can add it at the processing end only, the encryption can be put in there. So therefore, you have to make sure that data encryption is done at the earliest part of it. So one part is the wireless protocol with inbuilt encryption can be done. So second thing is data authentication. As I said, authentication, authorization and availability, accountability is the AAA servers need to be there. Authentication issues may not be upfront, but they are definitely posing a security threat or a security risk. For instance, you have a built-in temperature sensors for your smart home. Even though you can encrypt the data, it transfers at the gateway level to authenticated source IoT device limitation. Then anyone can make up fake data and send it to your sensor, instructing the room to cool even if it is freezing or extremely hot, vice versa. So this is something which is a major threat what you have got. We are going to see some of this threat of how the data can be faked or manipulated in the next section. So side channel attacks, this is another cryptography based attack. Information gained for implementation of crypto systems rather than brute force. So side channel attacks are coming in the encryption and authentication in both in place, leave scope for side channel attack. So these attacks focus less on the information, more on how it is presented. So this is what is a very another common thing. For instance, someone can access the data like timing information or power consumption or electromagnetic leave. All of this can be used for side channel attack. So this is something which we are not going to go in depth, but that's another IoT security threat we have. So hardware issues, from the beginning, the Internet of Things hardware is being the problem. With all the hype and sudden interest of IoT devices, chip makers like ARM and Intel are reinforcing their processor for more security and every new generation, but realistic scenario doesn't seem to be closer even to the security gap. The problem is most of the modern architecture of the chips are specifically for IoT devices. The prices will go up, making them very expensive. We saw $1, $4 in the video. So that will all become very expensive if you put processors into that. Also, the complex design will require more battery power, which is definitely a challenge for IoT application. And an affordable wearable devices, which is small ones, which is there on the thing, the chips need to be really small, and there is making it bigger to make it secure, doesn't make it fit into your hand. So affordable IoT wearable devices also creates problems for the chip manufacturing. So hardware is and will remain a problem in the future. Chip makers like Intel and ARM are keen to make better security for each new generation, since security could be a market differentiator, allowing them to grab more design wins and gain a bigger share. But on date, it is limited and insecure in terms of processing power or intelligence to detect or prevent an attack. For example, installing an endpoint security like an antivirus or an anti-adware or anti-malware is not possible in any of the IoT devices. So summary on date, HP has found that more than 70% of, or as many 70% of IoT devices are vulnerable to attack, and there is no silver bullet to contain the attack. But of course, a gentleman in Germany has created opportunity. As I said, challenges, security challenges create possible opportunities and become a billionaire. So this gentleman has been acquired by a very large IT company for a $2 billion valuation after this device has been proven to be very successful to protect the privacy and the data encryption and other things. What he has done is he has created a bit bot, which is a small device which you attach to the gateway, and through that only everything is done. All the processes, all the data accumulated, all the incoming outgoing data is all done through the bit bot, which does the authentication, authorization, as well as encryption and accountability very clearly often managed through that. Have a look at this video. It can be an inspiration for you to devise or design a similar tool to a bit bot which is more cost effective, and you can also become billionaire by a large IT company coming and acquiring you as part of their acquisition plan. So wish you good luck. We are going to see more and more on the security concerns and vulnerability in the next section. Till I meet you again, Jai Hind.